Hi everyone, it's Don and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Well, there was a lot of breaking news over the day yesterday and lots of changes and some confusion going on with some cruise lines on what exactly is happening with the pre-cruise testing and vaccination status. So let's clear it up. We have news on Princess, Royal Caribbean, and Carnival. First off, let's talk about the big news coming from Royal Caribbean. We already heard in the call that cruisers from the United States 5 days or less no longer need to get tested for pre-cruising. And now they're saying that they're welcoming back unvaccinated passengers. But it's very, very confusing. It's still very, very confusing because let me read exactly what Michael Bailey said from the CEO of Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. He said, "Today, finally, we announce a change to the testing requirements effective August 8th. There is no requirement for vaccinated guests to test for any cruise nights 5 or less. Unvaccinated guests will be required to take a test within 3 days of departure." That's also a change. It's from 2 days to 3 days, which is good news for some people. "We will also continue to operate highly vaccinated cruises with a vaccinated population greater than society, in which continues to exempt kids 12 and under, and we will continue to welcome unvaccinated guests over 12 and guests with a certificate of recovery within 90 days of travel, keeping in mind our ships will typically sail with 80% plus vaccinated guests on board. All crew, of course, on board will still be fully vaccinated and boosted when eligible. Over the coming weeks, we're going to evaluate these changes and discuss further changes to the destinations we visit. Our intention is to further relax testing requirements." Okay, yes, I understand they're going to relax testing requirements. In fact, if you're going to 3 days for testing again, and you're now welcoming unvaccinated guest members, and you're not testing for 5-night cruises and less, just drop the damn testing, everybody. If you're testing 3 days out, it's really doing nothing anymore because the infection rate when you catch COVID can take 4 or 5 days anyway to manifest itself. It's not an overnight thing, so the testing at 3 days is really doing nothing other than ticking a box. It really isn't. If you check the numbers of people who test positive on the cruise ships, they've all had a test within 2 days. So why 3 days? It's not doing anything. But the confusing part is people are saying now that Royal Caribbean is now just opening the gates to unvaccinated passengers and that, but we don't know. They said, keep in mind, we're going to continue to operate at 80%, at least. But they're not saying that that's their guiding line. That they're not saying, we're going to accept everybody until we hit 80%, and then we're going to cut it off. They're not saying anything right now. They're just saying, keep in mind, we will typically sail with 80%. Well, what if you can't guarantee that unless you have that cutoff. So you're either saying you're just going to welcome everybody back, or you're saying you're going to keep it at a limit. We don't really know. It's one of the most unclear statements a CEO can actually make when it comes to this decision. Tell us one thing, one way or another. Is it 80% and you're cutting it off and you're lowering that number? Is it you're just welcoming everybody back and figuring that most people are still going to be vaccinated? You don't know that. There's over almost 50% of the population in the United States is still unvaccinated, and they want to cruise as well. So if they start cruising, your numbers could drop from 80% to like a stone. So I don't get it. But hey, for people who are looking to cruise and you're unvaccinated, this is good news from Royal Caribbean. It's looking like they're going to ease those restrictions. For people looking to end the testing, they're saying over the next coming weeks they're going to look at testing. I'm guessing before the fall is here, there's not going to be a testing requirement anymore. They're seeming to drop these as fast as possible. We still haven't heard from Norwegian. I'm still waiting on Norwegian, but that's Royal Caribbean. So the big change is they're saying they're going to welcome back everybody, unvaccinated, vaccinated. They're easing the testing requirements on no testing for 5 days or less unless you're unvaccinated. And then again, 3-day testing, not 2-day testing, is another change. So that is, I guess, good news for some people. Some people might be concerned now, saying that, well, these are no longer vaccinated cruises, and we already have cases on board that they keep reporting in the news of 100 people on this ship and 100 people on that ship, and now we're opening it to unvaccinated people? What if people start going to the hospital now? I don't know. It's just, it's so unclear. It really is unclear. Just put it in your guidelines and stick to one decision. It's, I don't know. Okay. We also have Carnival Cruise Line, who has made their change now to follow suit with Royal Caribbean. So the two biggest cruise lines in the world have now come out and said, we are no longer going to be testing 5 days. 5 nights or less, you don't have to have a test to get on board. And also 3-night testing as well. So one of the big changes from them is you're no longer going to be able to get a test at the cruise port. You will have to do this on your own, but that's still 3 days out. 3 days out. So again, kind of useless, but you know, it's still a protocol. Unless you're on a sailing 5 nights or less. And again, unvaccinated guests will still need to provide that test no matter what, even on 5-day cruises. Okay. It's all over the place, right? You can't tell if you can cruise without a program, folks, without a program. Get your program here. Now we also have Princess, and a lot of people are becoming very, very confused with Princess because they're saying they're changing their protocol for what they consider vaccinated, and now you're going to have a booster in order to sail on a Princess cruise ship leaving from the United States and that. And no, that's not the case right now. The case right now is only if you have a sailing into my country, Canada. Canada has now decided that fully vaccinated means you have to have your up-to-date booster. And they are now holding cruise lines accountable to that. So if you have a sailing from Canada or a sailing into Canada, which includes Victoria, if you're doing Alaska cruises from Seattle, or it can be the East Coast, or a Trans-Pacific, or a Transatlantic that stops in Canada on the way back. All those are considered stops in Canada, and you will now have to be fully vaccinated. Fully vaccinated means you have received 2 doses, plus any boosters when eligible for a booster. That's on their website. It's still there. But they also have a change somewhat. In the United States, you only have to have that antigen test 3 days in advance. In Canada, 2 days in advance. So if you're going to sail from, say, Vancouver to Alaska, you have to provide a test within 2 days. If you're sailing from Seattle, 3 days. So yeah, lots of confusion going on, but as I said, I think by September you're going to start to see a lot of these protocols dropping. I am surprising that they're starting to ease the vaccination requirement. We'll see how that goes. But again, they're easing the vaccine requirement for Royal Caribbean, but in a very unclear way. They're saying they're welcoming back unvaccinated guests, but they're still going to sail at with mostly fully vaccinated. And fully vaccinated, according to the CDC, is 90% or above. And they're saying 80%, but they're not saying that's a cap. So again, very, very unclear. Let me know in the comments down below. Is this something you're looking forward to? And don't pick on people who are unvaccinated who want to cruise. They haven't been able to cruise in 3 years, and I understand they want to cruise. It's a choice that everyone makes. Let's keep those comments out. And don't pick on anybody. You have your right to your feelings. They have their right to their feelings. If you don't want to cruise on a cruise line that's welcoming back unvaccinated guests, you don't have to. There's other cruise lines out there right now. But eventually, everyone's going to be cruising with everybody everywhere. So let's just go with that, and let's try and keep it a little bit civil. Because, yeah, when you're talking about vaccines, it's never civil. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Want to see more tips, more tricks, more travel blogs from around the world? Hit that subscribe button. Until next time, have yourself a safe and a great vacation.